Good morning. It's Monday, October 12th, and we've come back to City Hall to try to do these. But it does seem like a couple of things we're still getting used to. I know a few of you have texted in, media members, to Casey. We're not sure about what we were doing today, so she is going to be she's going to be happy to work with you all. If you have any questions that you need to contact, text her. We did have Jeremy, so Rick in weekly is the only one who showed up, so you're going to get some kind of a prize. We'll figure out. Unfortunately, we're still working on this, bringing this back together. I didn't have my water bottle, so again, there are a lot of things we're going to work on, and we're going to be better next week. This is our first week back, and so we got a couple things. But we are back for one important reason today. Sean, if you want to come forward with me here, Today is Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Pensacola. This is our first one, and I'm proud to make this our official Indigenous Peoples Day here at the city of Pensacola. In honor of this day, we are flying the flags of the Eastern Band of Cherokee, the Seminole Tribe of Florida, the Porch Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw tribes in front of City Hall. Much of that was done at the suggestion and assistance of Sean Linezzo, who's going to speak a little bit on this after I do. But certainly, Columbus Day has not provided an opportunity for us to reflect on the colonialization of North America by Europeans. Prior to colonization, indigenous people lived and flourished in America, including Florida and right here in Pensacola for thousands of years. It is the responsibility of the city of Pensacola to foster inclusivity, and today we recognize our responsibility to honor the nation's indigenous roots, history, traditions, and cultural contributions. From here forward, as declared by the City Council, the second Monday in October will be celebrated as Indigenous Peoples Day. We look forward to having a larger celebration next year and continuing to find opportunities to recognize this day and educate the community about Native American culture. With us today to just say a few moments about this is Sean Linezzo, who certainly worked with us to get the flags up today. If you have a chance to come by City Hall and see, it's a lot more colorful. We've had a great day with the flags out there, so please come see. Sean, thank you for the work you've done to get this started. You want to say words?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for being so supportive with these ideas. To start, I wanted to, it's become common with Indigenous Peoples Days and these events to open it up with a land acknowledgement. So I'll go ahead and do that and just remind everybody that this sky, this earth, and this water that makes Pensacola so beautiful is life. And Florida is the ancestral land of the Appalachian Nation, the Muskogee Creek Nation, the Miccosukee Tribe of Florida, and the Seminole Tribe of Florida. I just want to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all beings. And then I would also like to read a short statement that I wrote after talking with Robert today while we were putting up the flags. He convinced me that somebody has to say something, so he didn't want to do it, so I'm going to read a little something. And it's basically saying that Indigenous people didn't really fly flags like this. It was actually Christopher Columbus who introduced these symbols of colonization in the Americas when he planted the Spanish flag on Turtle Island way back in 1492 to represent control and possession of the land. From the doctrine of discovery all the way through manifest destiny and Indian removal, the powers that be continuously made rules that allowed and promoted the exploitation and the extermination of indigenous people. Flags are most often recognized as symbols of domination over a territory. As Pensacola, we primarily celebrate our local history as the City of Five Flags. And the history we teach begins with Spanish conquistadors and Spanish flags. And we do not recognize the indigenous people that have been here for thousands of years before the Spanish arrived. Usually, today is different, as you mentioned. Every day of the year, we fly the flags of the 5 colonizing nations. This year, on Indigenous Peoples Day, we take them down for a moment and raise the flags of the 5 civilized tribes not to claim any kind of victory other than finally being recognized again. And for me, that's already a nice new beginning for the post-2020 future. So I'd like to thank City Council and especially Councilwoman Sherry Myers for all of her work in making the resolution. Thank Mayor Robinson and his team for being enthusiastic and supportive, and also the Pensacola Museum of Art, Schoolhouse 4 and 309. And then in conclusion, I want to read a short piece from the current Poet Laureate of the United States of America, Joy Harjo. Joy is the first Indigenous Poet Laureate of the United States, and I'll be reading the intro from her book, An American Sunrise. And this book is currently being featured in a series of events happening here in Pensacola next month, being programmed by the Pensacola Museum of Art. Joy Harjo is a great poet, and if you're wondering about local Native culture or wondering how to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, this is a great way. Just read any of her many books and poems, and this is a really short thing. On May 28, 1930, rewind. On May 28, 1830, President Andrew Jackson unlawfully signed the Indian Removal Act to force move southeastern peoples from our homelands to the west. We were rounded up with what we could carry. We were forced to leave behind houses, printing presses, stores, cattle, schools, pianos, ceremonial grounds, tribal towns, churches. We witnessed immigrants walking into our homes with their guns, Bibles, household goods, and families, taking what had been ours as we were surrounded by soldiers and driven away like livestock at gunpoint. There were many trails of tears of tribal nations all over North America, of indigenous peoples who were forcibly removed from their homelands by government forces. The indigenous peoples who are making their way up from the southern hemisphere are a continuation of the Trail of Tears. May we all find the way home. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I think, as we said before, we are looking to be inclusive with everybody's history, and certainly there was a long history of indigenous people here. Certainly the tribes that were here when the Spanish got here to Pensacola. There's a long history of use of this portion of this land, and today I'm very happy to work with you, Sean, to have those flags out there, and they certainly look good. So appreciate you being a part of this, and again, if you have a chance, please come by. I think next year we certainly will look to do more that we can recognize our indigenous people. Certainly we still have very active Borch Creek Indians that are here in the Escambia County, Florida, Baldwin County, and Escambia County, Alabama area. So we're very, very happy. And I know that on Friday when you were here with me, Sean, there were a couple of people from the tribe as well to present us some of the flags. So we hope we will do more next year, but certainly this is our first Indigenous Peoples Day. We want to talk to you something about we had planned at length to come forward a couple of weeks ago, but again, as we move forward, we just had a number of things, including the storm that sort of dominated. We wanted to bring you the employee engagement and satisfaction survey. We've done our second. We've conducted our second annual employee engagement satisfaction survey, gathering information from identified for improvement and betterment of the employees and residents. The results showed that 72% of the employees are satisfied to work for the city, and more than half the employees are highly engaged in their work. The survey saw participation from staff, with 74% of our employees completing the survey period in July of 2020. Despite the significant challenges our employees have faced this year, I'm glad to see that our employee engagement and satisfaction have improved significantly over the past year. We know that we still have plenty of work to do, and these results simply show the efforts of what's been done so far as we try to affect more improvement here and more employee engagement. The more our employees are engaged, the better work they will do for all of our citizens. Some of the highlights in the survey include 72% of the employees are satisfied to work with the city. That's an increase of 5% from 2019. 5 percentage points. Not at 56% of the employees are highly engaged in their work. This is an increase of 9 percentage points from 2019, and the city of Pensacola ranks in the 58th percentile when compared to similar organizations nationwide. This is an increase of 19 percentile points from 2019. And the gentleman that we work with, Chris, said this was the largest increase he has ever seen in an organization between their first and second survey. So again, we've been doing a lot of things here, and we think we've made a positive difference, and we hope it reflects. I think when I look out there and see the work that's being done after the hurricane and the engagement that I see, whether it's Public Works, our first responders, or our Parks and Rec crew, I've been amazed to see how engaged all of those groups are in getting us back up on our feet. And sanitation, I shouldn't skip sanitation. They've been at the forefront of dealing with debris. So again, this is the reason we focus on employee engagement, because the more our employees are engaged and feel like they're making a difference in the work they do, the better job they do for you, the citizens. Throughout the survey, we hope to continue to gain insight as to how to better engage our employees, which will in turn provide better service to you. We'll be sending a press release shortly with more information. Debris pickup. Again, the City of Pensacola sanitation crews and contractors are continuing curbside debris pickup after Hurricane Sally, collecting 6,600 loads, totaling approximately 295,000 cubic yards since Monday, September 21st. So we've been at this 3 weeks, and we've almost picked up 300,000. It's almost 100,000 cubic yards a week. Again, we originally started with an estimate of 350,000. I know that Kimmy and myself and John Pittman went out and took a tour last week, and certainly in talking with John, he estimates that we will probably be somewhere in that 450 to 500,000 by the time this is done. One of the things that happens is a lot of people have leaning trees or trees they decide to take down, and so we have seen, and you've probably seen as you're driving, all the brown stuff is stuff that was originally there. There's a lot of green stuff on the side of the road that we are continuing to pick up, and we will be continuing to do so. But probably our estimate numbers are probably going to jump from it wouldn't surprise us if, again, we were somewhere between 450 and 500,000 cubic yards. We appreciate your patience as the crews work through every neighborhood. Again, we are working in all 7 districts. So again, that means there's a portion of all 7 districts that we haven't gotten to. We continue to work through there. Approximately 59 contract crews and 11 city crews are currently working throughout the city to complete the first sweep of our collection, which is expected probably not the end of this week, but somewhere in the middle of next week. We expect to have that done. We will continue to keep moving forward and coming back with a second and a third sweep for additional items that are curbside in the right-of-ways within the city limits. Also, let me explain, we've been very focused on debris pickup. Probably as soon as we get done with all the debris pickup, we are currently picking up some, but we will focus a little bit more on the C&D, which is your fences, things from inside your house, household products, and those things. And so we will come back, and almost everybody had yard debris. Not everybody has C&D. We will come back and get your C&D, but we want to focus on yard debris at this particular time. When we finish that first pass, we'll be more aggressively out there approaching your C&D debris. Debris will be ongoing, and again, second and third sweeps are expected to be completed somewhere in November. We'll notify the public before making any final decisions on collection sweep. So stay informed and sign up for email and text notifications from cityofpensacola.com or follow the City of Pensacola on Facebook. So again, we are working diligently to get all of your yard debris picked up. FEMA individual assistance registration is continuing for FEMA individual assistance 1 week after becoming eligible for assistance for Hurricane Sally. 1,716 Florida individuals and households in Bay, Escambia, Okaloosa, Santa Rosa, and Walton counties have been approved for almost $7.49 million in funding from FEMA. This money is temporary housing expenses, basic home repairs, and other essential disaster-related needs. If you have an uninsured loss from the storm, you can register in several ways, but you have to get an appointment. The best way to do that is to call 1-800-621-3362. They are open every day from 7 a.m. To 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time, which is local time. You can register online at disasterassistance.gov, or you can download the FEMA app on your mobile device and register using that app. Again, any of these 3 ways, if you are looking for FEMA assistance, you need to register with them, and they will be able to sign you up and meet with you. FEMA has opened mobile registration centers for Hurricane Sally survivors in the Escambia, Okaloosa, and Santa Rosa counties. These mobile registration intake centers are staffed with FEMA personnel who can assist with registration and answer questions about disaster assistance programs. The centers in Escambia County are the Southwest Branch Library on Gulf Beach Highway, the Brownsville Community Center at 3200 West DeSoto Street, and the Escambia County Extension Service at 3740 Stefani Road. The centers are open daily from 9 a.m. To 6 p.m. Central Time, or local time. Again, the closest one for most of the city residents is going to be 3200 West DeSoto Street, which is the Brownsville Community Center. Again, we hope you will take advantage of that if you have needs. I've received several emails from people that were in need of assistance, and we continue to try to work with that. I know that Lawrence Powell in our area is certainly working with as many citizens as we can to assist. So again, we continue to work with that, but we need to direct you to FEMA. They have a way to sign up and for you to be able to be eligible. Again, we are still working with COVID-19. We are in the process of opening most of our things. We are still requiring masks. We are requiring protocols to open that keep people away from concentration. We are looking if there are any kind of events. We do want to see more outside. Certainly, as we're outside and in the sun, it's a more effective way to combat the virus and the spread. There are now 12,660 positive cases in Escambia County. 11,464 are residents. The latest update shows a 1.17 positivity rate for October 10th. This follows again 3.27 on the 7th, 1.47 on the 8th, and 1.88 on the 9th. Our hospitalizations are, as of yesterday, we're at 44. We've been bouncing around in the 40s and 50s. We went 50 on October 8th, 50 on October 9th, 47 on October 10th, and 44 yesterday. So again, we stayed kind of in there, which is, when I've talked to the hospitals, this is a number that is very capable for them to be able to hold. And again, we did get some communication from the hospitals that are very supportive of outdoor, any commerce we can do outdoor, anything we can do to do things outdoors. They certainly, as we learn more about the virus, it seems to be, especially in the sun, that it seems very unlikely for transmission in the sun. Ultraviolet light kills the virus, so as we're learning more about it, we're learning how to take the proper precautions. But again, those are things that we continue to work with. Over the weekend, we continue to be dealing with the bridge and the ferry. Most of this weekend was focused for us and still trying to figure out ferry and what those options are. We are very supportive of the city of Gulf Breeze obtaining what they need to be able to finish their dock facility, and we certainly don't believe Gulf Breeze should be the one paying for that. But I know there were some people in town that were looking at some of our landing facilities and looking what could be done in Gulf Breeze. So we continue to be thinking of that route. I also know that many of you, and I see Derek is here, we've checked on our side, and I'm not saying that we didn't have anything, but we have had a call in this morning to DOT that you know, we expressed our I guess disappointment and somewhat consternation at the fact of what happened with Skanska and the blowout in Gulf Breeze of getting sediment into the bay. We are continuing to focus and ask them to continue to focus on our side, but certainly fixing the Gulf Breeze side as well. Again, this is certainly disappointing in many ways. It's just a continuation of some things. We were very clear in our warnings to Skanska that they needed to prepare, and we will continue to focus on whatever preparations we do on the Pensacola side, but we also want them to be sure they focus on the Gulf Breeze side as well. Finally, I know many of you out there have been communicating on 5G, and there's been a recent push to develop some kind of a standard. The city of Pensacola is happy on an aesthetic standard, and we're happy to work. I think at the last city council meeting we said, I think expect something in later October, early November. We're going to try to have some kind of a meeting in chambers or somewhere here at City Hall where we can get people together and get suggestions. We're going to also work through CNAP to figure out what our different neighborhoods are looking for. We are more than happy to establish an aesthetic code, and we want to know what each of those neighborhoods want. The challenge before this has been people simply have said our desire for aesthetic standard is we don't want it at all. Unfortunately, that's not something that we're going to be able to defend. But if there is something we want to do in a certain style, in a certain way, we will be looking to establish that standard. And again, it certainly, we want it to reflect those neighborhoods. We've already been doing it in our historic neighborhoods, but we extend that same courtesy to our other neighborhoods, and we're happy to work on that end. And you'll be seeing something in the next couple of weeks come in on that, and we're happy to figure out what we can do for the other neighborhoods. So that's a little bit about where we are. I'm happy to answer any questions. And Jeremy, you're going to seem to be you're going to get all the questions until people can text Casey.
I'll let Andrew go first if he's already got one up.
Nope.
No? Okay. On the 5G stuff, I mean, is establishing aesthetic standards, is that something they have to, the communication companies have to abide by, or more of just a...
We have some ability and flexibility, and we've been able to do it in the historic areas. We've already done it. We offered several months ago to do the same thing in other areas, but generally the response we got was, well, our aesthetic standard is we don't want it at all. That's not an aesthetic standard. If you want to actually tell me, hey, I want a metal pole, I want it to look like this, we'll be more than happy. And I think the communication companies, if we sat down with them, would be happy to listen to that as well. So I think if there is a true design standard that is something other than we just don't want it, I think we can make that happen. They've certainly been agreeable to working with us in historic districts, and I'm happy to apply that overall the city. If we want to figure that out, I'm more than happy to do that.
How confident are you that FDOT will figure out a way to make things happen in Gulf Breeze ferry-wise?
I think FDOT can do this or figure something out. I don't think FDOT's the problem. I think the question becomes what's going to be the responsibility of the party that created the injury. And I mean, there was a lot of discussion on that the other day. We've been very focused at the city as far as creating solutions. We think one way or the other, the court system will solve some of these other things out. We obviously agree that the state needs to make Skanska be as responsible as they need to. I think you heard both Senator Broxson and Representative Andrade last week, and we echo their feelings. But our feeling was for a sister city that again, $28,000 for us to repair the city of Pensacola was something we could do and figure out those expenses and make that happen without the state's assistance or a private company. I would hope that Skanska would be responsible enough to see this as a way they could help and in a small gesture figure out a way of assistance. But if they're unwilling to do that, I think DOT should step in at some point and then seek damage back from Skanska. I mean, if they're going to play that way, it's unfortunate. We wish they would be more proactive. I think it would be a better strategy for the overall public. But at this particular time, we're focused on solutions. And if we have to go to court to address those after the fact, I'm confident that probably the state will go do that. The city of Gulf Breeze can go do that. But at this particular time, the city of Gulf Breeze doesn't have the ability to spend that kind of money to make that happen. But it does need to happen. And everything that I was being told was it could still be put in use by the end of October. So to have essentially 5 more months of 4.5 more months of working through this, I think it still would be worthwhile to our community. We're trying to solve things on our side, and certainly as we move into the spring, when we will get more travel to the beach and to Gulf Breeze and 98 become a more critical artery than it typically is, we need other solutions besides going to Garcon Point.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you were saying the other day about opening up an area downtown here for businesses, from Gulf Breeze to operate?
Yes, the city is sponsoring and underwriting the permit fee for what I think DC Reeves is looking to do with trying to get something going on for Gulf Breeze merchants. We've communicated with him that we're happy to do that. I think he was looking to do something on Garden Street, and we understand that. Going forward, we have a fairly strong commitment from DOT that we'll be able to close Bayfront Parkway on weekends going forward, and that may be what we're going to be looking to do and offer opportunities. Food trucks, other type of commerce are just opportunities for people to bike and walk and recreate. We have some great parks, veteran parks, Still Square, Bartram Park. They are connected by Bayfront in that way. We think we can resolve that where everybody can go from Alkines all the way to Chase and be able to experience that without traffic. We understand there's a small a few houses right east of Alkines, but we can work that on the north lane, which would be the westbound lane coming back into Main Street. We can make that two-way and allow people to walk on the south lane that's along the water. So we've got some solutions. We want to implement that, and we've had positive discussion from DOT that we will be able to do that, and we hope if there are opportunities to work with merchants and find ways to do things, we're going to be open. Again, this is going to fit twofold. This is going to fit certainly in the part of COVID, trying to get more outdoor commerce, and I think it's going to fit also within what we're trying to do, make better walkable communities. So I think this solution will provide all of those opportunities. I'm not sure who exactly will take advantage of it, but one way or the other, we do feel like at least giving people that walkable experience along the bay with there's very light traffic right there right now. Not very many people are using that area, and so we still have some things to work out with the port. But again, if we look at it on weekends, I think we can minimize port traffic as well. So we're still looking at that, but I do expect in the fall we will have some of those.
I do have a question from Andrew.
Yes.
He said it sounds like having flags at all is at odds with Indigenous people's worldview. And he wanted me to ask you if you asked whether they wanted no flags at all. But my understanding was that
Sean approached us.
supported.
They approached
Yeah.
us about this, and Sean approached us and asked to fly the flags. We certainly didn't force anybody to do that. The idea came to us, and we thought it was a neat idea. I mean, I certainly understand what he was saying, the way flags are generally viewed, but at the same time, we were asked about it. Obviously, the tribes have adopted flags, and I think at this particular time, it does remind us that Indigenous peoples were here long before European settlement came. But again, this is our story. Our story is not exclusive to Indigenous people. It's not exclusive to anything else. It's all one story of Pensacola, and we need to tell all of it. And I think this is a good start in that direction. And we were happy to do it today, and certainly appreciated Sean. He was also the one that was bringing forward the idea of of having a bust in Plaza Ferdinand opposite of Jackson. We simply asked that we look at somebody like a William Weatherford or Peter McQueen. I think he talked about doing Peter McQueen rather than Osceola, because it certainly reflects both Weatherford and McQueen were here in Pensacola. They traded with the Spanish. At that point, it was a very multicultural. Pensacola and Escambia County would have seen that. I mean, you had Spanish Americans, Indian, Native Americans. So again, you have a lot of things that were happening in our history at that time, and you have individuals that were very active in the Creek Nation that were here in Pensacola. So I also want to comment that Sean has never asked that we take anything down. In fact, that's always been part of his discussion. Is we need all of this to be there so that it fosters this discussion about how we, what do we do, how do we do this, how do we handle things that happen. And again, all of us, we come, there's a story behind us, and part of it shapes who we are, but it doesn't have to limit our future. Our future really is determined upon us and what we want to do and how we want to do it. So, you know, I think we've tried to do that very clearly with our motto. We pay tribute to our past. We're Florida's first, but we very much are focused on what Pensacola can be as Florida's future, and that's what we get to shape. So, you know, every day we do this, and I think this is a neat experience to have our first Indigenous Peoples Day, and I certainly appreciate Sean with the flags up there. We're going to fly them. Hopefully you get a chance to come by and see them. Any more questions? Well, thank you very much. We will be back here next week. We'll try it again in live, and we'll see how it works. But we'll make sure we have everything, water bottle and everything else. But thank you again for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.